Hello, welcome to this course in academic communication skills. Um, I hope it's going to really transform your ability to communicate effectively in English in an academic context. I also hope and believe that you will be able to transfer the skills that I'm going to teach you to other languages too. I mean, if you're not a English native speaker, if you're a Chinese speaker or Japanese, Korean, German, French, whatever, um, what I'm going to be teaching you in this course can also be applied and used in your native language or in other languages, because this is a communication skills course. It's not a language course. So I am not going to be teaching you vocabulary. I'm not going to be teaching you grammar. You may learn some vocabulary and some grammar. You will probably, I hope, learn some expressions, some phrases, some ways of expressing ideas that you didn't know before, but the focus is on communication. And the whole point of this course is to look at the way that we speak, or the way that we should speak, and look at the way that we write and the way that we should write. And it's really all about realizing that the way that you speak should be completely different from the way that you write, and the way that you write should be completely different from the way that you speak. You have to realize that, and so the first few modules will be looking at the differences between those two modes of communication, and then we'll build on that knowledge and start developing techniques to help you write better and help you to speak better. I'll be concentrating more and more on writing as the course progresses, but the first few modules of the course there'll be a balance between the written and the spoken. Now this first module is called the four modes, and you can probably guess what those four modes are. I've already mentioned two of them. I've talked about two of them quite a bit. So let's start thinking about the four modes. Babies, when they begin to learn language, the first thing that they do is listen. And then, as they learn to walk and they grow up a little, they also begin to learn to speak, and they can say things like Dada and Mama. And then they go to school, or they work with their parents or their nurse or their nanny or whoever, and they begin to learn to read. And then once they've learned to read a little at school, they will learn how to write. So, at the beginning, speaking and listening are the easiest the most natural ways of communicating. And you may still feel that. You may feel a lot more comfortable talking to somebody than writing to them. Other people feel differently. Other people feel more comfortable. I want to put it down in writing. I feel a little uncomfortable. I'm a little nervous when I speak. It depends on your personality to a certain extent. But once you've finished school and you've had a good education and you're ready to go to university, maybe you're at university, you're going to be pretty good at all four of these modes. However, one of these four is much, much easier than the other three. Nearly everybody agrees about that. Certainly all non-native speakers agree about that. I mean, when you're learning a foreign language, one of these is always easier. I know that from my own experience of learning Greek and picking up a bit of Italian and French and whatever. One of these is always easier. I'll tell you which one it is in about 5 or 10 minutes, but you probably know which one it is. But before we get into that, let's consider these four and start dividing them up and categorizing them and thinking about the way they work and thinking about how very different they are from each other. Let's divide these four into two columns. So on one side you have writing and speaking, and these are, of course, the productive modes of language. And these are the two that I'm particularly going to be working on in this course. I'm going to be helping you to write more effectively and to speak more effectively. And as I say, this mainly involves realizing that you should not write in the way that you speak, and you should not speak in the way that you write. In order to do that, though, we need to look at the other column, reading and listening, which are the receptive modes of language. Because in order to speak effectively, you must understand what it is like to listen. Because the way that you speak effectively is to make it easier for the listener to do what the listener wants you to do. You can only do that when you understand the way listening works. And similarly, you can only learn how to write effectively when you understand the characteristics of reading, when you understand what the reader wants and how reading works and how reading is so very different from listening. So what I want you to do is think about how different reading is from listening as an experience. How does it work? How does listening work compared to reading? What's involved? And we're going to have a look at how that works. I'm going to show you the beginning of a lecture about working abroad. And then you can sense what's that like as an experience listening to that lecture. You have the experience now of listening to me So what's that like? How easy is it for you to grasp what I'm saying? What's involved? How is your mind working? How is your mind grasping the words that are coming out of my mouth, the information? How is it working for you? And then how is that different from reading a book?
I want to talk about something that is an issue that may or may not, but most likely may affect most of you here. Talking about working abroad or deciding to sort of spend some of your life being a professional abroad. What kind of choices you make, and how would this impact the rest of your life? It sounds like an ambitious speech. Basically, we live today, and it may sound like a cliche, but actually we do live in a very interconnected world. If 100, 200 years ago to get a letter from Paris to St. Petersburg took 6 months, and getting a job abroad used to be a very difficult thing, now we have Skype, we have LinkedIn, we actually can research our target job, we can decide to move there, and we can decide to actually stay in our countries until we actually get the perfect job. Some of us actually go there, out there and get it, but the whole point is I want to talk about sort of generally the global professionals, the global talent, as it moves from a place to another following the labor market needs in different parts around the world. Now, I would start actually by talking about first the ones who will hunt and target a job from their home country and then actually go there, where you will estimate the vectors, the two vectors you need, your expertise and the need for your expertise and where it is, and of course the salary.
Well, how was that? How did you get on? Was that easy to follow, listening to him? It wasn't a very, very difficult lecture on a difficult subject. I chose a subject that I think you would all be familiar with working abroad. So it wasn't very technical, it wasn't very complex. He was not using any slides or words or anything. I wanted to just give you pure listening. Of course, when you're listening, you are also using your eyes. And you're also seeing the person, but you may also be seeing words that that person is using to support what they're saying. But I chose, for that example, one where you just have somebody speaking. So what was that like? How is that different from reading a book? Well, I've got a load of books here. Let's get hold of Jean-Paul Sartre. Now here we have a very, very, very difficult book. Now, how's the experience of reading? Picking up a book, how's that different from listening to something? Well, the thing about reading a book, the big thing is how much control you have. I mean, I'm holding this book in my hand and I can go to the back of the book. I can, oh, there's a key to special terminology in the back of the book and I might need that. Oh, there's a name index at the back of the book. So if I want to know about Euclid, he is on page 457. So I can go to page 457. I don't have to read the book in the order page by page. This is a an academic communication course, I'm concentrating on speaking and writing skills. I'm not doing a lot on reading, but let me give you a little tip here about reading. When you're asked to read a book, an academic book, you don't have to read it page by page by page by page. You use it as a space, as an object. And I can find out, I've forgotten which page Euclid was on, so I can go back and check. He's on page 457, Euclid. So let's have a look for 457. Yeah, where is he? Here he is, page 457. And now I can scan down the page, I hope, and I can find Euclid. Actually, no, I can't. I can't find Euclid in this. Oh, here he is. Yes. No interpretation of this can demonstrated by Euclid's postulate implicitly suppose the adoption of this postulate. Right. Now, if I'm not sure of any words, I'm not sure what anything means, I can go on Wikipedia, or I could go for another book, maybe a dictionary or something, and I can check terms. Of course, I've got, as I discovered, I've got at the back of the book, I've got the key to special terminology. So that might help me. If I don't understand something, well, I'm holding it in my hand. I can read it again and again and again. I have far, far more control. It's a completely different experience, really. When I'm sitting in a lecture, the words are just coming at me and I can't say, oh, stop a moment, I didn't catch that. Can you just go back? Of course, you're listening to me now, and this is a video, and then you can press the pause button and you can rewind, and the way technology has developed means that you have more control, sometimes much more control, over what somebody is saying. And when you're listening, you have much more control over the listening experience. You can rewind me and listen to me again if you need to. You can fast forward if you like. I'm talking about like it's old technology of VHS tapes and videotapes, but you can move the cursor along, can't you, and go to a particular point in the video and select that little point. So you do have the kind of equivalent when you have a recorded lecture. But when it's just a lecture, when it's just somebody talking, you don't have the same control as you have when you're reading. And that is why, of course, everybody thinks that reading is easier than listening, because you have all that control. You're not pressurized to keep concentrating. If you're getting tired and you're reading, it's all right, you can stop, you can go and get a cup of coffee, you can come back and look at it again. You can talk to your friends about what you've read and then come back and read it. When you're in that lecture, you've got that lecture at that particular time, and that person is talking, and you've got to concentrate, maybe try and catch some notes or something. So it's always the case that reading's easier, the easiest. Well, let's think a little bit more then about why. Why and how is that the case? Now, reading and writing are spatial They exist in space. As I've said, I hold the book and the parts of the body involved, hands and eyes, because reading and writing are visual. It's a visually perceived space. It's basic, but because it's so basic, because it's so obvious, because it's so natural, many people forget about that. They just take it for granted and they don't think about what the effect of that is on communication. And we're going to see some examples of that later on in this course. Basically, too many people speak the way that they write and write the way that they speak. And if you're doing that, you've got a problem. You're probably doing neither of those things very well. But if you're doing one of them well, you'll be doing the other one badly. But the chances are you're doing neither of them very well, because you've got to make sure that your speaking's nothing like your writing and your writing's nothing like your speaking, because reading is nothing like listening at all. You're using your hands and your eyes, and it's spatial. Listening, not like that, is it? Listening is a sequence. It's temporal. It exists in time. And, of course, it's audio, not visual. So the parts of your body involved in listening are your ears, and in speaking, it's your mouth. So you've got completely different parts of the body involved, with mouth and ears in one case, and hands and eyes in the other. And the parts of the brain involved for reading and listening are quite different parts of the brain. So while we think of this as just being language, really they're two absolutely different language systems, as we're going to be looking at in the next module. Start looking at the fundamental differences between these two. And they really should determine the way that you speak and the way that you write. Because you've got to learn how to speak in a way that will help the listener, make it easy for the listener. And this is about the way that you structure your information, because the words are coming along in a line and a temporal sequence. When you're writing, it's a space, isn't it? And so the reader can see how long the paragraph is. The reader can see how many sentences there are in the paragraph. The reader has much more idea about where it's going. And the reader can indeed flick forward to see how many more pages before the end of the section, before the end of the chapter. When you're listening to a lecture, you do not know, unless the lecturer tells you, you do not know how many more points the lecturer is going to make. You don't know how much more detail the lecturer is going to go into. You might be looking at your watch and saying, oh, okay, well, actually, people don't have watches anymore. Maybe you'll get out your phone. You'll get out your phone and, oh, where's my phone? So you can get out your phone and you can see, right, well, it should be finishing in 10 minutes. And you can get an idea of, okay, we've only got 10 more minutes before coffee. But you don't really know what the lecturer is going to say next. When you're reading, you've always got the chance of flicking forward and seeing where this is going. And if you've forgotten something, you've always got the chance to flick back and go. You get the point. I'm repeating myself here. So maybe that's a good moment to stop this unit. Sorry, stop this module. We've only just started the unit. We'll stop this module, and you can do a little exercise, which shouldn't be too difficult. And Jean-Paul's back. I'll do that at the end. Where are we? Yeah, do a little exercise. Have a think, and then I hope come back for module 2. Okay, see you soon.